I think.
And good morning, everybody. I'm sorry we had to organize this call at short notice, and I apologize that we chose a holiday for this call, and I really apologize for inconvenience caused to all of you. Let me just give you the update of what's been happening. There was a board meeting yesterday where I was appointed as the non-executive chairman of the company with immediate effect. Mr. Sheshai resigned as the chairman of the board, Vishal as the executive vice chairman, and Jeff and John as independent directors. And Ravi Venkateshan stepped down as the co-chairman, but will continue on the board as an independent director. Therefore, I have joined the company in the capacity as non-executive chairman of the company. And as non-executive chairman, I will be responsible for board oversight, governance, and functioning. This invitation to have me join the board in this capacity as non-executive chairman was a unanimous decision of the board. I am thankful and grateful to all the board members who resigned yesterday. Sheshai, Vishal, Jeff, and John, and thank them for their contribution and for allowing, inviting me to join the board. As you know, my role is not an executive role. It is for oversight, governance, and functioning. And one of my key tasks in the coming weeks will be to help and assist in the CEO search process. We are very confident that we will have a large pool of internal and external candidates who will participate in our CEO search. And we have already, since in the last few hours, I've received many mails on this. And we are looking for the right candidate who will be able to demonstrate expertise in managing a large global corporation, accelerate the execution of our strategy, have strong appreciation of the cultural transformation that Infosys is going through, has strong technology prowess, and is able to build and strengthen relationships with all stakeholders. This call is not about Infosys' guidance, revenues, margins, strategy, because they're all things that will be discussed in the later calls. This call is purely to tell you about the change at the board, and that I have come in to focus on the future of the company. I've come in to take the company forward and deal with its challenges, and I'm looking forward to doing that along with the rest of the members of the board as well as the management team. This decision happened last night at about, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Then I had a informal conversation with the new board, and I also had conversations with senior management yesterday. Today, I am doing this investor call with all of you. I am doing media interaction in the afternoon. I will then have the first board meeting of the new board to discuss some of the things that are required to be done in the coming weeks. And then I will have a second investor call for international investors in other time zones. So we are moving quickly to put in place an architecture of what needs to be done going forward, including getting the new CEO, which is of primary importance to us, as well as looking at the board composition and what should be the strategy going forward. I must say that I have been very pleasantly surprised to see that there was universal acceptance of my coming in, and I received support from all quarters. Of course, I was invited by the board unanimously. I do understand that some investors have also written in about this. And also, I have the full support of the founders, Mr. Nandan Nilekani and my other co-founders. And I'm confident that we are now entering a period where we will go forward in a very positive manner. Whatever are the issues that were there and raised, I will have a look at it. Obviously, I'm a big believer in very high standards of corporate governance, and I will make every effort to ensure that the whole thing is done well. I am a big admirer and fan of Mr. Narayan Murthy. He gave me my first job when I came out of IIT Bombay in 1979. I joined him as a software engineer in Patti Computer Systems, where he was the software manager. And Mr. Murthy is one of the iconic visionaries of this country in post-independent India. I think you can think of him as really the father of corporate governance in India. And many of the practices in today's world were all pioneered and invented in Infosys. And way back in the 90s, long before people had thought about corporate governance, Infosys was at the cutting edge, whether it was analyst calls, quarterly reporting, full transparency, SEC filings, becoming SEC compliant, being the first Indian company to list in an American stock exchange. You name it, Infosys has been at the cutting edge. So I greatly value Mr. Murthy and his contribution. And one of my goals is to ensure that Infosys and Murthy and other founders have a very healthy relationship. This company will be a board-managed company with me as the chairman and my board members. And this board will practice the highest standards of corporate governance and fiduciary responsibilities. And also, let me assure you that we will consult all stakeholders. We will interact and get feedback from all our investors. We will discuss with our customers. We will discuss with our employees. We'll discuss with society. And you can rest assured that I see my role as a holistic role which interacts with all stakeholders to take this company forward. We are, as I said, we will be getting to a few quick decisions in the next few days. And as far as issues related to the business of the company, be it the strategy, the transformation plans, the earnings, the guidance, all these things will be discussed and talked to with investors in the investor call, which will happen after the board meeting in October. We are going to also make sure that we continue to remain an iconic company that has been held in high regard for its achievements and driven by a great team. My interactions with the team yesterday was excellent, and I think we have a very highly committed set of people who want to take this company forward. So I have, as I said, I've come to look at the future and make sure that we do all the right things. Of course, people are asking how long I plan to be here. I plan to be here as long as necessary, and I will not be here as soon as I'm not necessary. So I have a set of tasks to accomplish. I have to get, the CEO search has to be done. The board has to be reconstituted and new people have to be brought in, et cetera, et cetera. The business has to be stabilized. And I will be there as long as it takes and work as much as it takes to make this happen. But once things are in the right direction, then I will once we deem it that my presence is no longer necessary, then I will no longer be there. So that is, I'm not able to say what is the time frame for that. I do hope it will happen as fast as possible. I have been doing, as you know, it's 8 years since I left Infosys, and I've been doing a lot of other things then. And many of those things have had to be paused because I had to come back here. So it's my endeavor to do all the right things and move on. At the same time, I will be here as long as necessary and work as hard as necessary to make sure that Infosys, the iconic company, is on its path of full potential. Once again, I am very, very happy with the incredible support that I am receiving from all quarters. The retiring board was unanimous in inviting me. The new board, in my initial interaction with me, has been an extremely supportive and progressive conversations. Mr. Murthy and my other co-founders have been extremely supportive. Investors have welcomed it. Customers also had a couple of interactions. Employees have welcomed it. So I do hope to take this reservoir of goodwill and put it to use to put the company on the right, stable path. I will therefore request all of you to help me in this task and make sure that we move forward. With these opening remarks, I will shortly open it up for questions. Once again, let me clarify, I am not discussing strategy, guidance, earnings, transformation, none of those things. It's too premature for me to comment on those things. However, I'll be more than happy to answer questions about the transition and any doubts or clarifications that you want to seek about the change of events at Infosys. Thank you, and I now request Sandeep to open it up for questions and get me one question at a time or whatever it is.
Sure, sir. Imba, we can open up for Q&A.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who has a question may press star and 1. Our first question is from the line of Nandan Nilekani of Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Welcome back, Nandan. It's good to have you at Infi once again.
Thanks, Anand. It's been a while since I met.
Yeah, no, hope to catch up soon. So, Nandan, I had a couple of questions. The first is, Mr. Murthy obviously had some concerns on the composition of the board, which I guess has been addressed to quite a large extent now. But he's also raised some fairly serious questions on governance around a couple of developments in the past. So should we, investors and analysts, expect more disclosures from the company on those issues in the near future?
Well, I have to take stock of all this. And as you know, I am also absolutely committed to the highest standards of corporate governance. So we will come out with a plan on how we will look at these things, and we will get back to you. I will not be able to comment on that, but definitely any concerns of any shareholder needs to be addressed, and we will endeavor to do so.
Okay, and secondly, when it was earlier announced that Vishal would continue until the new CEO was in place, at least gave some comfort on near-term continuity, especially with key customers. So what led to that, the change in that status? And, and then consequently now is there concern that there could be some disruption in near-term operations?
No, there will be absolutely no disruption whatsoever. The reason for continuity was to manage the process of the CEO transition. But since I have joined, that's an issue which will be taken care of. And so Vishal also felt, and we agreed, that this was the appropriate time for him to step down. And the company signed all the clearance agreements with him yesterday. And let me assure you that we will take every effort to ensure that the company's business performance is on the same track, that any client relationships are handled, and so on. So I see absolutely no issues, and we will take this forward properly.
Thanks, Anand. Good luck, and hope to catch up soon.
Thanks, Anand.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavin Shah from Sameeksha Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Nandan. Welcome aboard. I wanted to, I think you have been immersed in technology, in the last many years, a lot of action in the startups. And so knowing what is happening, there are a lot of disruptions that have taken place. what do you think a successful IT company, needs to do in future? Do you have any sort of would you be able to point to any examples of maybe some companies have done few things, maybe even a smaller level or smaller companies? What is going to be relevant in future?
No, I think that's an excellent question, Bhavin. And I think in terms of the actual strategy that Infosys will follow, as I said, we will be able to unveil more details in October because I will be requesting my colleagues to do a quick refresh on the strategy and so on. But I feel that there is a tremendous opportunity because what I see happening around the world is that software, data, and machine learning is becoming fundamentally transformational in every industry. Earlier, we saw this in industries like advertising and media, but now we are seeing it in entertainment with the rise of Netflix. We are seeing it in automobiles with the rise of Tesla and the electric car. We are seeing it in business models with the combination of an electric car, which is self-driving, and with an Uberized or Olaized model is fundamentally changing industries. Now, so this is happening across every industry, whether it's retail, automobile, media, entertainment, whatever. So I think my feeling is that there is tremendous opportunity here because many of the incumbent companies who are facing this challenge from these new age challengers who are very tech savvy and data oriented will need a lot of assistance, guidance, help in getting their counter strategy. So I'm quite confident that if we are able to work on this side, there's plenty of opportunity for firms like Infosys.
Thank you.
Our next question is from the line of Parag Gupta from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Hey, hi Nandan, and thanks for doing this call with us.
Thanks, Parag.
Hey, so Nandan, my first question is, we understand there have been some class action lawsuits that have been filed, by a couple of U.S. law firms. Could you help us understand about, how much do you think are these issues or any new developments likely to be, an irritant going forward, or do you think that these kind of come to rest with what has happened? So could you guys just give us a sense on, how much can these impact or create hiccups going forward?
Well, I think obviously, our legal team, our CFO will look at these and look at, what it's all about. But, I really want to be focused on the future. As I said, the first point I want to make is that we want to bring complete stability in the organization, and there are no discordant voices from, on the company, and we're going to say that everybody is on the same page. I think getting that stability is a big step forward. Second, we're going to focus on people getting their attention and energy on the business. Third, we are going to focus on a very wide global search for the best CEO for Infosys today. Fourth, we're going to focus on how to get the board, look at the board and see what needs to be done in terms of additions to the board and getting the right set of people for the future of this company. And then we are going to, in the near term, look at the strategy things. And, we'll have to take stock of all the various initiatives. I do know that Vishal had taken up a lot of initiatives on AI and zero touch and many other things. I haven't really got into the details, but our team I'm going to commission a team to take stock of all the initiatives and figure out how to grow them and how to integrate them into the mainstream. So, to me, when you're running a public company, you're going to have, especially a public company of the iconic state of Infosys, which has global customers, which is listed on 2 continents. I mean, there are always going to be, things of that nature, but I think our focus is on the business. I think one thing I've learned, whether it's in my life at Infosys or my life at Aadhaar, is that if you're able to deliver, then everything else fades into insignificance.
Sure. Thanks, Nandan. And the second question is, when Vishal was taken over as CEO, there were generally some skeptics who thought that his being located in the U.S. Is not necessarily the right strategy. Do you have any views on, for your new CEO, would you want someone to be based in India, or are you okay with them being based?
I think that's a premature question. I am only concerned about how to have the best CEO who has the qualities that I described to you a little earlier. Right now, I'm not focusing on his geographic location.
Great. Thanks, Nandan, and all the best.
Thanks, guys.
Our next question is from the line of Ashwin Mehta from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Welcome back, Nandan.
Thanks, Ashwin.
I had one question. As per the press release, there's a non-disparagement obligation which has been signed with the outgoing members of the board. How does that play in terms of the request for releasing the Panaya investigation report?
As I said, I've just taken over, Ashwin, and I will look into all this. I am committed to A, higher standards of corporate governance. B, I am committed to all legal agreements that the company has made with anyone who is leaving the company. I am committed to finding solutions in a holistic manner. These are all things that are the job of the board and the governance of the board. These are all things that we will deal with. What is important is that these things are dealt, but more important is that we focus our attention on the future, on the business, on the transformation needs, on customer needs, and show demonstrable progress. To me, that's the primary thing. All this is other things we will take care of.
Okay, fair enough. And secondly, in terms of the concerns that clients might have because of the uncertainty that's been caused, what is the plan? Would you be involved in terms of talking to all these clients along with the management to assuage any of those concerns?
First of all, I don't know what those concerns are, because as far as I'm concerned, those concerns are no longer there. We have now a very stable board. I have taken charge as non-executive chairman. I have the full support. I was unanimously invited by the board. I have full support of Mr. Murthy and my other colleagues. So we have full stability with the board as well as with promoters. And a very large number of institutional investors have publicly asked for me to come back. So I assume I have their full support. So I think it is fair to say that whatever stability is required is now in place. Now it's about going forward. And certainly many of the customers are still customers whom I knew, who were there when I was there. And many of those relationships are there. I do expect executive management to make it clear that things are stable and the future is bright. However, if there is any particular customer relationship that requires my involvement, of course I will do it.
Okay. Thanks a lot and all the best.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Divya Nagarajan from UBS. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question and welcome back, Nandan.
Thanks, Divya.
Two questions to you here. One is, you have been, out of the business for some time, but you've clearly been an astute observer here. How do you read the changes in the marketplace in the last 2 to 3 years, and how does that correspond with the intrinsic strengths that you think Infosys still has? And what are the gaps that you think that you would like the incoming CEO and the team to focus on?
Divya, I just explained that it's probably a little over 12 hours since I took charge, and that I would be discussing, or whoever is on the call will be discussing strategy issues in October. You have to give us time to, I have a fairly good idea of what's happening in the external world. As you know, I don't know whether you've been seeing my talks on the various transformations, including my latest one on data. So I'm well abreast of technological changes happening and disruptions happening globally. I now need to look at what's happening in Infosys and align the external changes happening with what Infosys needs to do. That is not something I can do right now. I will do that in the October call. So please give me some time for that.
Thanks. And my second and last question is, you spoke about, your criteria for an external CEO, if you're indeed looking at an external CEO. Is that the way that you think the company needs to go forward? Do you see the opportunity for, asking some of your senior leaders internally to...
No. I never said, I said internal and external candidates.
Got that. All
Please,
right.
I said very clearly, we will look at both internal and external candidates as part of a CEO search. I just said that I just defined what are the attributes we want in the candidate, but absolutely we are going to look at internal and external candidates. Not only that, we are also going to look at what I would call as Infosys alumni, which is Infosys leaders who have reached very high levels and, have, for whatever reason, had left the company and have gone on to become successful elsewhere. We are very open. We have a very open mind. It's going to be a global search. We will look at internal leaders, external leaders, alumni, whatever geography, all that. We just want the best person, and I will spend a lot of my time in making sure that we have the right person in charge as a CEO. And then obviously I will help that person in integrating into Infosys.
Thanks. That's very helpful, and wish you all the very best.
Thanks, Divya.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Bipin Seth from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, and thanks for taking my question.
Sure.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Nandan, a specific question for you here, Nandan. From what we can figure out as external observers of the goings on for the last few months or indeed quarters, is that you have come in primarily to do damage control. And that's very, very appreciated. You have our support as well, not that it may matter right now. But the bigger thing is your role going to be just about this damage control and finding a new CEO and moving on, or do you see yourself staying back for some time at least after that as well?
No, I think I said earlier, I will stay as long as necessary, and I will go once I am no longer necessary. Now, I will not put a time frame on this, and my appointment to the board is also not with a specified duration. My job is, obviously one of my jobs is to get the new CEO, but also to ensure that, there's proper integration, etc. I also need to ensure that the strategy is fully aligned with global developments. So I have a number of tasks on my plate, and I will do them as long as it is necessary to do them so that the company is on a sound footing looking into the future.
Fair point. I think you've answered my question.
Thank you. We'll take the next question from the line of Pankaj Kapoor from JM Financials. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Nandan, welcome back to Infosys.
Thanks, Pankaj.
I have just one question. So as you go about reconstituting the board, should we expect some more changes here, and should we expect a more direct or indirect representation of the founders on the board going forward? Thank you.
I think, I like to believe that I'm here more than just as a founder. I have, as you know, come after resigning from Infosys 8 years back, I've done some fairly significant things in the world. And I have been invited by all parties. So I've been invited by the founders, I've been invited by the full board, I've been invited by investors. So they obviously, I assume people see me as a unifying and holistic person, which I believe I am. So this is nothing to do with that. This is to do with, restoring the company on the right path with all alignment of all the people. And all my life, my job has been a consensus builder. If you know that the Aadhaar project was conceived by one government and is taken forward strongly by another government, that shows the consensus building that I have done. So I think I will bring those same consensus building skills here. It's not about person A or person B. And let me assure you that I am committed to all shareholders. and committed to a board which is fully independent, fully professional, and which is geared to do the right thing for the future.
Thanks. That's helpful. Just a follow-up, Nandan. One of the things which came out in the last few days post these events has been that while there was a conflict between one set of investors and the board, the larger institutional investors, they feel that their voice was not being heard. What's your thought on that? And do you think that there's some mechanism which you want to establish which can ensure that going forward there is a direct connectivity with them as well? Thank you.
Well, I mean, I don't want to comment about what has happened, but I can say I don't know whether you saw our press release yesterday, but we talked about a process of broad shareholder consultation. As I said, when I'm the chairman of this board, I represent 100% of shareholders, and we will be, sensitive to everybody's points of view, and we will. Again, you have to give me some time to think through the operating architecture of that engagement, but definitely this will be a very broad-based input-taking process.
Got it. Thank you and all the best.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Harish Zaveri from DSP BlackRock. Please go ahead.
Nandan, this is a version of the questions that have been asked earlier from both.
Yeah.
And I'm just rephrasing them, and you're free absolutely not to answer it at this point in time. Maybe you can address them in the October thing, but I'll just leave you with the question.
Sure.
One is that we've seen Infosys reinvent itself twice over. First came the Y2K, then EDM, then IMS, and then now when you see Vishal Sikka leading Infosys in a particular manner, it's not that you didn't have products earlier. You had products earlier. Pinnacle was there. And then you had these new products which came in. There was this perspective that we wanted from you as to, as an observer, and you've been the best analyst at any you could have been the best IT analyst if you were an analyst actually. But
I'm looking for a job. I'll come to you. I just took some other job, so I'm a little busy now. But after that, I'll come back.
The only thing was that looking forward as you take Infosys forward. This was the one concern that we had as to what sort of Infosys are we looking at in the future, a product-driven Infosys, a services-driven Infosys where 35% of those services are becoming obsolete in that sense. Vishal gave us one number 2 quarters ago, and I'm just repeating that number. The 35% of employees give us 55% of revenues, and their margins are substantially higher than the company margins. Now, this was one number, and we thought, okay, this number will keep moving forward as we go forward. Just your perspective on this one whole thing. The second one, and this is the second perspective, and again, you're very free not to answer this question at this point in time, was our thing was that the founders had concern over the Panaya acquisition. Our perspective was that $200 million was the Panaya acquisition. Infosys is a very big company. Sure, there could be some issues, cultural differences, differences in viewing and acquisition. At the end of the day, it was $200 million in a large balance sheet. How much attention will you give to that thing when the report be made public? This was a version of the question that Ashwin asked you. And again, I'm not expecting an answer, but just placing my concerns before you as to $200 million, does it matter in this whole balance sheet part? And how much of management bandwidth has to go here? Those are the 2 questions. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Now, obviously, if there are issues of corporate governance, we need to address them. So I need to, I don't want to say what is happening or not happening. I have to look into it with a dispassionate approach. So I will do that. But I think, I'm very clear about one thing, that I do not want this company's management team to be distracted from its primary purpose of satisfying customers, growing the business, and managing the transformation in this disruptive era. So my biggest job as chairman of the board is to ensure alignment between the board and all the shareholders, make sure that we bring down the noise in the system, and everybody goes back to work to doing what they have to do, which is build a very strong Infosys. So that's exactly I see my role, of course, along with getting the new CEO and other things I mentioned. Your first point was, what was the first point, boss?
Yeah, that there was this part that Infy has reinvented itself twice.
Yeah. See, look, these days I find it difficult to, distinguish between a product company and a service company. I mean, is Uber a product company or a service company? Is Google a product company or a service company? So I think I have a fairly good idea of the global transformation happening. I've given a number of talks on this topic and, which explain the trends, the mega trends and what they mean. Of course, I did them in a general sense, but now I will look at the triangulation of the general trends, what is happening with the Infosys customers and what's happening at Infosys, and triangulate the three to come out with what we hope will be appropriate strategy. That will be done in the next, before the next board meeting. We already had a discussion yesterday with, we have a committee of directors to assist the CEO with Ravi and Prahlad. And also we have Praveen and we have Deepak Patki, who's the head of strategy. We have Ranga, who's the CFO. We have Mohit, who's the head of the, who's in Europe. And then we have Ravi Kumar, who's the deputy CEO. So I'm already quickly having conversations with them, and we'll form a small group to quickly get this strategic alignment thing done. And my assurance to you is that I'll be able to answer your question more substantively. I or whoever is on the call will be able to answer the questions more substantively in October. You have to give me some time to figure this out.
Thank you very much, and all the very best to you.
Thanks. Just one thing, Ranga, I think we need to note down his point about some statement that was made about revenue and percentage and all that. I need to know what it was all about.
Yes, Nandan. Noted.
Yeah, I'll just repeat this. So 35% of employees give you 55% of revenues with margins that are much higher than company margins. This was a statement. Ranga can correct me if I'm wrong.
Ranga, I need to understand what was all that about.
Sure.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Ankur Rudra from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Welcome back, Nandan.
Thanks, Ankur.
Good to see stability return to the company so quickly. So it's clearly a positive surprise. A few, I hate to do this, but I want to go back to one question which perhaps you've tried to answer in several different ways. There have been several controversies about possible corporate governance lapses in the last 1 year. The question is, will this be investigated to assess if there was any wrongdoing that puts the company at risk from a legal or reputational perspective?
Boss, I need to get into what is happening. I need to figure out what are these, what has happened, what are the lapses, if any. So, this is a parallel process that we will do. Absolutely, we will do that because these are concerns raised by, by an important, stakeholder. So obviously, we'll do that. And we will do that, but I want to do that in parallel as we go along because, I think businesses to succeed have to be focused on their future, on their customers, on their strategy, on the huge disruptive shifts happening in the global business scenario. I mean, this world is really in a very, very dynamic situation. So absolutely, over the next few months, we will look into all these issues and we will bring them to closure to the satisfaction of all stakeholders and without violating corporate governance.
Excellent. And recently the board, actually the previous board announced a buyback. Given the reconstitution that happened just yesterday, does that mean anything for changes to that?
What is one got to do with the other?
I'm just wondering because, you might be rethinking everything. I was wondering if this would also be on the table for rethinking.
Oh, hey, I mean, the board took a decision to do a buyback. I think today is the last day of the buyback. Right? So, Ranga, can you explain this, please?
Yeah. Yes, Nandan. Ankur, I think, company approved the capital allocation policy, which is comprehensive and predictable after taking into account all the strategic and operational cash needs of the company way back in April. Of course, afterwards, since we are globally listed in multiple jurisdictions, we had to go through a process. After that, the board approved, and we have rolled out the buyback, and we have announced it is up to 13,000 crores, and we have announced the price. I think that there is no way that the company has indicated at any point in time it is going to rethink. The buyback program is on, and the next process, including the postal ballot, which we have to do to take the shareholder approval, will be rolled out very soon.
There are absolutely no changes in the capital allocation policy, and we are proceeding with the next steps of the share buyback as was decided earlier.
No, that's very helpful because, there was some thought process of, I think, perception, perhaps wrong, that...
No, I do not think there has been a single communication from the company to indicate any such thought process.
That's very helpful. Just last question from my side, Nandan. What will be the key guiding principle of your, CEO search and the board reconstitution from a long-term perspective?
So I think, as I explained on the CEO search, we are going to cast a very wide net. We are looking at internal candidates, external candidates, and Infosys alumni. As I mentioned earlier, our goal is to find somebody who has the expertise in managing a large global corporation, who can accelerate the execution of a strategy, has strong appreciation of the cultural transformation that is required, has strong technology prowess, and is able to build and strengthen relationships with all stakeholders. So these are the attributes that we are looking for. I am quite convinced that with the stability that we have brought into the company and with the fact that we have a very clear plan, we expect a large number of candidates, internal and external, to apply for this position, and we will have a search committee, search firm, all that, to quickly come to somebody who is suitable for this very exciting job. On the board side, also, we will take a look at the current board. As you know, 4 board members, including the chairman, stepped down, so I took over as the chairman, and then, of course, the CEO, who was an executive and later on became the executive vice chairman, he stepped down, and 2 independent board members stepped down. So we will take a look at the current composition. The current composition has 8 members, which includes me, who is non-executive, but I assume non-independent because of my promoter status, and Praveen, who is the CEO, and the remaining are independent directors. So we will take stock of that, look at what should be the profile of this board, 6 months to a year from now, and then do a systematic search for the appropriate board members who bring the complementary strengths, skills, and stature to the board. So that is also something which I expect our nominations committee will work on, and our NRC with our nominations and remuneration committee will work on. And again, I hope we'll be able to quickly come out with a plan there.
Thank you very much, and best of luck.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Yogesh Agarwal from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Welcome back, Nandan.
Thanks, Yogesh.
Hi. I just have one question, Nandan. See, if you look at, past few years, Mr. Murthy came back few years back, and it was kind of a minor crisis, and it seems like a bigger crisis, and you have come now. And I'm sure you'll find a suitable candidate for the new CEO as well. But what's your thought process? Why nobody has been able to fill into, your shoes since both of you guys left the executive position? And what kind of support is missing at the top, or fundamentally there are any issues at the top that the company has not been driven as much as it used to be in your times?
I think, boss, this company is a very resilient company, and I think, I can see that even yesterday when I met with many of the management team, and I was very impressed with their capability, with their passion, with their execution skills. And I know that they are focused on the business. I'm confident that we will be able to do it right. And as I said, I have actually, again, I want to be clear, I have not come as the CEO. I have not come as the execution guy. I have come as somebody who, it appears from public information, who appears to have the confidence of all the stakeholders, be it founders, be it other institutional shareholders, general shareholders, be it the board, be it employees, and be it customers. So since there seems to be this, what shall I say, universal acceptance kind of thing, I've come in, and I hope that I'm very confident that I will be able to address both the issue of getting a high-quality CEO as well as putting in place the mature and diversified board of stature to assist that CEO. I cannot predict how long that will take, nor do I want to make a commitment on that. I will do it as long as necessary. I can assure you that it will be a very strong company.
Thank you, Nandan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Sandeep Agarwal from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, Nandan, welcome back, and thanks for taking my question. So a couple of questions. First question, which is more on the damages which has happened. So just
I'm sorry?
First question is more on the damage which has already happened in last few days. I understand that this is the swiftest transition anyone can do, and I'm very happy about that. But there has been some, 7-10 days of uncertainty or something. So there would be some kind of concerns which will be there at the client end. So what kind of process or something, you may wish not to answer that even, but what kind of priority or process you are thinking to address that concerns, at least for our top clients on one side? And secondly, also, if you see in last 1 year, on and off, there have been some or other distractions. So what I understand, what will you try to avoid this time when you look for a new CEO, or when you are recomposing the board, that again we don't undergo this kind of distraction? And probably will there be an algorithm, or will there be a process to set up what will be the priorities of the members who come in the new board, and the person who comes as the CEO?
You want me to give this job to a machine learning algorithm?
I am not expecting a machine learning algorithm, but I'm saying what will be the kind of priorities that will be there. Yeah.
No, I understand, and I appreciate your question and your concern. I think on the CEO side, I've explained the whole thing, and you'll have to give me some time to look at the whole board composition. I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to do it the right way. I mean, I think Infosys is a very unusual company which has where we are trying to professionalize and really hand the baton on to a new generation of leaders. So I'm committed to that task. I see myself as someone who I guess is acceptable to everyone, and therefore I've taken on this big responsibility, and I will discharge it to the best of my ability as long as I need to do it, but no further than that, because I do have, I do a lot of things today which are in the public space which I would like to go back to. So I think, and I think as far as the, you see, everything is a learning experience, and I think I now have a fairly good idea of what all I need to do to make it super stable, and I think I will do that. I can't really get into the details of that, but let me assure you that nothing would make me happier than putting things in a super stable, high growth path.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for taking my question.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Ritesh Rathod from UTI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Nandan, welcome back.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, Nandan, this is more, I don't know how material is this, but last Friday Infosys issued a press release against Mr. Murthy, and there was a detailed press release. So is there any thought of taking back that press release and asking apology from Mr. Murthy? given most of us have access to what was there in the whistleblower letter, and it's more or less very sure that there was corporate governance lapses and was noticed out and shouted for last, whatever, 6 months or 12 months.
As I said, I'm looking at the entire gamut of issues, over the next few weeks, we'll look at each of these things, and I want to resolve it to the satisfaction of all parties, and I certainly don't want any corporate governance lapses. At the same time, I want to spend a significant amount of my time looking forward.
But we are not taking back that press release. Is that?
No, I didn't say that. No, don't put words in my mouth. I'm just saying that I'm going to take stock of everything. I'm not in a position to comment on anything right now.
Okay. Thanks. That's from my side.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Viju George from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my question.
Thanks, Viju.
Welcome back. We hope to get a rocking version of Nandan 2.0. My question really relates to the parallel constitution of the board plus the search for the CEO. Do you think they're running parallel, or would you like to maybe augment the board with some eminent members whose input you'd like to take while the CEO search is going on, or do you think these are two independent events that will happen parallelly?
No, I didn't understand. Explain that again.
Okay, so I'm sorry if I'm not clear. I'm actually away from Mumbai. But my question really was, do you think that the CEO selection process is in a way dependent on the augmentation of the board, in the sense that would you like to eminent members of the board first and take their opinion for the CEO selection process, or do you think they can be independent of each other running parallelly?
No, both are absolutely parallel. We have an excellent nominations committee headed by a very well-known and global entrepreneur like Kiran Mazumdar-Shah. Kiran and the nominations committee will drive the CEO selection. So that is a parallel activity. And at the same time, the nominations committee will come out with a plan on the future board composition, and then we'll start looking for specific individuals who fit the overall frame. Let me assure you, both will be parallel, because we have to do both at the same time.
Mr. George, do you have any more questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Sandeep Shah from CIMB. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, and welcome, Nandan.
Sorry, I really feel bad that you guys are probably vacationing in some nice place and I'm making you do this. I'm really sorry.
No, that is required. Even I think we have to compromise vacation if we are on vacation.
Okay.
Yeah. Nandan, just the first question, why as a non-executive? Why not as an executive? Just my question is in this, because the resignation is not normal. It looks like the extraordinary event in the history of Infosys. So I think being in an executive role, don't you believe that in the phase one we have enough fuel to what you say, like a super stable high growth, and in the phase two, once you select the CEO or the board selects the CEO and you are more confident, in that scenario also, when you step down to a non-executive role, still we make sure there is enough fuel for a super normal high growth?
No, I think, it's a good question, but I think, you see, we have to get a CEO as soon as possible, and that's my primary thing. And I think I see my job really as ensuring there is complete stability, that there is complete alignment of views between all shareholders, including institutional investors and the founders, the company and the board and so on. And I think, and the internal management. I think just getting that alignment is really the need of the hour. And I'm quite comfortable that there is a strong execution capability in the company which has been doing things very well, and they will continue to do that. And then parallelly we'll work on getting the new CEO as well as enlarging the board. I mean, I think, see, I don't think it's about going back to me as an executive officer. I think that is not what we're looking at. We're looking at me more as someone who has a trusted relationship with all stakeholders and is sort of using that trusted relationship to put the company on a new platform.
Okay. And just the last question, you also made a remark that the initiatives created under the leadership of Vishal Sikka, you would like to grow them and integrate this. So is it a right presumption that at a broader level, we agree with those initiatives and there are unlikely big bang changes which would be made on those initiatives?
Well, I think I'm not looking. I'm a very open mind. I'm right now said I will request our strategy team to make a complete inventory of all the initiatives that are going on. We will put them through a filter of, promise, market size growth, whatever, all the typical filters that you have. And then as a group, we will take a decision on how to grow them and integrate them. I have a completely open mind. I'm sure there were many very good initiatives that have been there, and think of it as how the new government adopted Aadhaar. Think of it like that.
Okay, fair. Thanks and all the best.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Ankit Pandey from Quant Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question and very hearty welcome back, Nandan.
Thanks.
Look forward to some stability and some new initiatives. My question, most of them have been asked before, but slightly thorny ones are remaining, so I'll try to put a positive spin on it. The first one is regarding the buyback. Have you indicated publicly what your participation will be and what the other founders have decided? And you addressed the promoter group as I thought that the company had moved on and not wanted to classify them as promoters. So how do you that?
No, come again. What is it? What classified?
Your participation in the buyback and all.
I guess the participation in the buyback is the individual decision of the individuals, and they will participate as they see fit. I don't know whether that's Ranga, is that a matter of public disclosure or priority?
Thanks, Nandan. I'll just add on to what Nandan said. As you know, the participation of the promoters or their intention to participate needs to be disclosed as part of the postal ballot. So when the postal ballot will be circulated to the shareholders for approval, this statement will be included as part of it. At this point in time, company has no specific announcements to make.
The second question, another question about something else you were saying about promoter or something?
Yes, I mean, do we want to address them as promoter group? I thought when Mr. Narayan left, he had wanted to move on from that address. So
no, I think, I don't know. Again, Ranga, can you clarify the SEBI business?
Yeah. See, as per the prevailing SEBI criteria, the promoters will come under the promoter group and category. As part of that, the company is required to specifically disclose in the postal ballot their intention to participate in the buyback, and we will be doing that.
Thanks, Anand. That was helpful. And the second question is, Nandan, how do you take yesterday's decision by the Supreme Court? Some see it as a big defeat for UID.
Well, first of all, as I tweeted last night, I think it's a superb decision. I think while it has upheld privacy as a fundamental right, it also acknowledges that, in the interest of larger societal reasons, you may have some, constraints on them and so on. And as you also know, there's a very good group set up to look at the data protection policy under Justice Sri Krishna. And I think, basically, the court has said properly that it's a fundamental right, but not an absolute right. So they can be. They also defined a set of considerations on which it can be done. And the actual other matter is going to go to a smaller bench, which I'm assuming they will constitute. And I'm very confident that Aadhaar will come out with flying colors, because I think it addresses all the design principles laid down by the Supreme Court.
That's interesting. Thanks a lot, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question.
I want to make some closing remarks before.
Sure, sir. You may go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you all again, and I again apologize for yanking you out of what was probably a long weekend wherever you are. But since we took this decision yesterday, we felt it was important that we reach out to our investors ASAP, and we will be doing another call in the evening with our global investors in other time zones. As I said again, my focus is on the future. My focus is on stabilizing and getting a new CEO and getting new members to the board. I'm very grateful to Mr. Narayan Murthy. As I said, he is an iconic figure, a visionary who created this company and led the path on corporate governance. And he is also very supportive of this move. I'm very grateful to the board, which unanimously asked me to take up this job. I'm very grateful to our management team and employees who responded enthusiastically when I met them yesterday. And of course, I'm very grateful to all investors, including investors who wrote in about this. So I think I'm overwhelmed by the support, and I can assure all of you that I have single-mindedly going to focus on all these goals that we have set for ourselves, and I look for your cooperation and support as we go forward.
Thank you, Nandan. This is Ranga here. Thanks everyone for participating in today's call. We have a record participation of close to 600 people on this call today. As Nandan said, we have scheduled another call at 6 p.m. India time today, and you're free to participate in that call as well. Thank you very much.